What is going on, everybody? I am back this week. I have been absent from YouTube. I have missed it so much. It's something about the beginning of spring that, I don't know, it just does it for me. I've been going to the farmer's market as I always do. I'm such a huge fan of wild garlic, otherwise known as ramson. So one of the recipes that I'm sharing with you today incorporates this beautiful fragrant green leaf, which can be foraged here, there, and everywhere if you're somewhere like the UK. Let me know in the comments if wild garlic has sprung up for you, if you're using it already in your kitchen. The first recipe that I'm gonna share are my wild garlic and salmon cakes, kind of potato cakes. They just incorporate so many beautiful, harmonious, delicious ingredients which are just gonna sing together perfectly. So the second recipe, although both recipes are fish recipes, is very different from the first. I'm gonna be sharing an almond butter, cod, and squash curry, which again, I cannot get enough of. For all of my recipes, you can check out all of my ebooks over on my website. Let me know how these recipes go down in your kitchen. I would love to hear how they go, so let me know. Let's jump straight into the first recipe. Let's go. So like I mentioned, I adore wild garlic. It lets me know that spring is here. It lets me know that sunshine days are to come. The first recipe are these wild garlic salmon cakes. They are divine. There are so many bold flavors within this recipe, so many like little details that just make it really, really beautiful. We're going to be using some salmon. I'm using some wild sockeye salmon, if anyone is wondering. You could definitely use tinned salmon if you don't have access to fresh salmon. That will work just as well. Other ingredients include capers. I love the salty, punchy element that capers give this recipe. Turning up the flavor, we are going to be using some Dijon mustard. Again, you can probably sub for any type of mustard that you have. I just really love the intensity of Dijon mustard. It's one of my favorites. Adding to this combination, we are going to need some mayonnaise. I love this shop bought mayonnaise from Hunter & Gather. This is an olive oil based mayonnaise actually, which is why I love it. No seed oils. The fundamental base of this recipe are the amounts and the combination of herbs that we're going to use. So this is everything. This is a really, really important part. So we're going to be using some fresh dill, some fresh parsley, and of course, tons of fresh wild garlic, which is going to just honestly, literally blow your mind. Any potato that you have on hand will work perfectly for this recipe. We're going to be throwing in some fresh chili for some heat. Other ingredients include spring onions, which are first of the season. They are here, they have arrived. We're going to be using some onions, and we're also going to be needing some lemon. Of course, we're going to be needing some zesty lemon for this recipe. The binder for this recipe will be an egg and some flour. To begin, take your cleaned and preferably scaled salmon fillets and place them on a baking tray. I seasoned my salmon with some sea salt and some black pepper. I threw over a little bit of garlic powder, also some dried herbs as well, just like a blend of mixed herbs. I swirled over a little bit of olive oil and splashed on some tamari. Place your salmon into an oven of about 180 degrees. Obviously, your salmon cook time is going to vary depending on the size, but wild salmon cooks super, super quick, like in like 7-8 minutes or something. Once your salmon is cooked, remove it from the oven and just kind of break it up, flake it, and set it aside. The next step is to prepare our potatoes. So we are going to peel our potatoes, chop them into any size that you like, and bring a pot of salted water to a boil. We're then going to place our potatoes in, depending on the variety, the size of the potato. The cook time, boil time is going to be different, but yeah, it doesn't matter if you overcook them like I did. It's fine because we are going to mash them up. Once they are mashed and fluffy, you can set them aside, and we're going to continue with the next step. So take your peeled onion and chop it up as finely as you can. We want it very, very fine. I think for these potato cakes, it's just nice if the ingredients isn't like kind of, I don't know, chunky. I just prefer it fine. Continue by finely chopping up your spring onions, followed on by that chili. Obviously, add as much chili as you like. If you want extra heat, go ahead, be crazy with the seeds. If you don't, leave them out. So heat a pan on a medium heat and drizzle in a little bit of olive oil. Place in your chopped onions, followed on by a little bit of sea salt and some black pepper, just mixing everything. So you want to slowly sweat your onions, just making sure all of the flavors are released. And then you can go ahead and throw in the chopped chili. followed on by the spring onions. So you can let everything in the pan just cool down whilst we do the next step, which is to chop up that wild garlic. So a thing about wild garlic, for the intensity of wild garlic to really be released, you have to kind of work it. So pretty much you have to like chop it very, very finely, pound it with a pestle and mortar and make like something like a pesto. That's like the most intense type of wild garlic taste that you're going to get. So to release and to unlock the true essence, the true flavors of this wild garlic, I finally chopped it. Chop up your fresh parsley and your fresh dill. You don't have to do it the same as the wild garlic. We're going to combine all of the ingredients that we have prepped. So we're going to place in our mashed potato, our cooked onion, spring onion and chili, our fresh wild garlic, parsley, dill. We're going to throw in that cooked salmon, followed on by some capers. I chopped mine roughly. You can keep them whole, it's up to you. I threw in that Dijon mustard, the mayonnaise, and I gave this some good black pepper, like lots and lots of black pepper. To finish off, I gave it some lemon zest. I whisked up that egg and threw that in, followed on by throwing in that flour. So combine all of that ingredients. You can use a spoon works just fine. Alternatively, you can use your hands if that's easier for you. So yeah, make sure everything is combined well. And we're gonna go ahead and shape up our patties, which is such a simple step. Simply shape your patties. You can make them as small or as big as you want. It's completely up to you. So I went ahead and heated up some oil in a pan on like medium heat. And then I placed in those patties, which are going to cook so perfectly, honestly. Like I didn't even use a non-stick pan and it worked really well. So cook up your patties. I would say leave them for around 3-4 minutes on each side, just kind of keeping a monitor on the heat because you definitely don't want to burn them. Yeah, just cook them until they have like that, you know, that golden kind of exterior and that you know that they're heated and cooked all the way through. These are something else, I'm telling you, they are something else. We're gonna whip up a little like kind of side yogurt to go with it, like a little dip, I guess you could call it a dip, a yogurt. Really simple. We're gonna grab some yogurt of choice. I always have coconut yogurt, which actually worked. I threw in some mayonnaise, some Dijon mustard, and some fresh chopped herbs. I also squeezed in some lemon juice from the lemon, which I used the zest for, and gave it some black pepper, just mixing everything until combined. So you can serve your wild garlic salmon cakes up any way that you want to. If you're doing it sharing style, this is a really gorgeous way to do it. Maybe you're kind of sharing it as like a starter, so you would just plate them up individually. But yes, this one sings spring. It has all of the elements, all of the notes, all of the combinations of ingredients that just literally welcome this beautiful season, which I love. Let me know how quickly you devour these wild garlic and salmon cakes, because I know for sure these were gone in a flash. Moving on to the next recipe, we have an almond butter fish curry. This has been on repeat in my kitchen just because it's so simple, so easy to put together. Don't let the amount of spices and seasoning make it seem complicated. It's really straightforward. The almond butter adds richness to this. I love this one. So we're gonna need some cod. I'm sure any fish will work well, but there's something about cod that just works extra well for this recipe. We're gonna be needing some squash. You could sub for sweet potato. This squash, I think it's a Crown Prince. I had this huge squash that I bought from the farmer's market that I just chopped up, and yeah, just been adding to everything. So some squash. So for that richness, for that extra oomph in this recipe, we're going to be needing some almond butter. So when it comes to herbs and spices, we are going to turn the volume up. So we're going to be needing lots and lots of fresh coriander. If you like it, if you don't, you can leave it out. I like throwing in a little bit of dried thyme. When it comes to restrictions or rules in the kitchen of what goes and what doesn't go, I literally have no rules. I just like to experiment and feel free. Some coriander seeds, some curry powder. You want quite a strong, flavorful, intense, full-bodied curry powder. Also some chili flakes and some cumin seeds. And then we're gonna need some tinned chopped tomatoes, super simple, some fresh lime, and lastly, some full fat coconut milk. This step is completely optional. You can just throw your fish in at the end, but I like to just give it a little bit of lime juice beforehand and just let it sit whilst I'm prepping the other ingredients. So I chopped my cod into cubes, gave it some sea salt, some black pepper, a little bit of garlic powder, and I threw in lots and lots of lime juice. I then put it in the fridge and just let it sit, like I said, until all of the other ingredients is prepped and until it's ready to go into the pan, which is going to be last minute because it cooks really, really quick. So peel and chop up your onions. You can finely chop them. Honestly, you can chop them any way that you feel to, and do the same with the garlic. Peel your garlic, chop it finely. Moving on to the red pepper. Yeah, do the same thing. Chop up your red pepper. So place your spice seeds, your cardamon, fennel, cumin, and coriander into a pestle and mortar and just give everything a good crush. Place some coconut oil into a pan on a medium heat. You could also use ghee for this, which would work really well. And then place your crushed spice seeds into the oil. So quickly flash heat them for about 30 seconds to 45 seconds before placing in the onions and the garlic. Begin stirring everything, just give everything a good mix, and grate in that ginger. It's just easier to grate it straight into the pan. So season with some sea salt and some black pepper. So the onions will start to have a really beautiful color on them. So you want to kind of cook everything low and slow. The spices, the smells are going to be amazing. Even at this point, everything's just going to be smelling absolutely delicious. Grab that tin of chopped tomatoes. You can use plum tomatoes, you could use passata, work with what you've got on hand. So place in those chopped tomatoes, pour in that coconut milk, continuing to stir, and you just want to kind of turn the heat up a little bit, get everything bubbling away, everything smelling gorgeous. And now we're going to add more spices. So we're going to place in our chili flakes, the curry powder, and I threw a little bit of garam masala in there as well. An important ingredient for this dish, of course, is the almond butter. This is an almond butter curry, but you don't need a lot. You only need a little bit of almond butter. It will go far. It is delicious. It makes everything rich. It brings out all of the other flavors in the pot, and it just elevates this dish. Like, it's just, oh, it's so good. For me, as I mentioned, I threw in some squash, some crown prince squash, and go ahead and throw in either some water or you could throw in some stock. It's completely your choice. Now you want to cook this down until the squash, or if you're using potato or something like that, is tender and cooked. We want it looking something like this, with all of the spice seeds and the flavors just being magnified. Now that everything's cooked down, we can go ahead and add in our cod or whatever fish of choice that you're using. This will be done in about 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes. The fish is going to cook really, really quick. I recommend turning the heat right down and just placing the lid on and just letting everything cook that way. So the finishing touches which complete this recipe include chopping up some fresh coriander and squeezing in some fresh lime juice. I know you're gonna love this just as much as I do. Look at this, my goodness. Look at that fish, look at that squash, which is gonna be all soft and just I served mine with some basmati rice. I also had some flatbreads as well, and I put on a little bit of coconut yogurt, as I always do, as I love to do when I have curry, and I placed on some more fresh coriander because I can't get enough. This one leaves me lost for words every single time. For more of my recipes, you can check out my ebooks over on my website. Enjoy cooking these recipes up, and I will see you soon.